Hello everyone, Maurice Singh here. Welcome to Tinks Invest, where we're going to be talking about investing, finance, and professional development. For today's video is for entertainment purposes only. The stock that we're going to be talking about today is Coinbase. As you guys are aware, it IPO'd last Wednesday on the 14th. So I've been doing a little bit of research to gather a lot of insights around the stock as an investment opportunity as a whole. So I'm going to give you guys a little bit of my rationale, some of the insights I've gathered so far, and what I plan on be doing with respect to this investment opportunity. I'm going through my technical analysis to see where I see the stock going from here in more of a quantitative perspective. Also, as a bonus, I'm going to give you guys my entry price target on what I think is the optimal level for us to get in, and also my year-end price target predictions for coin as well. So stay tuned, stick around, let's make some money. Before I dive into my rationale and my thought process around this investment opportunity, I want to just take a look at the technical chart as a whole, looking at what we know so far based on what we see in front of the chart. Understanding more about the human psychology and some of the volumes that we're seeing so far and some of the trends that we can see quantitatively so far. Okay, so as you can see, ever since on IPO on last Wednesday, we basically start from the 380 level. We pumped it all the way to the 430 level because of this whole euphoric pump, this hype that was building around, obviously Bitcoin, around like the whole cryptocurrencies hype that we've been experiencing for the last month so far. And knowing the fact that Coinbase has been pumping so much dollars into the marketing in the last quarter so far as well, that it just built up such strong marketing momentum and also this euphoric momentum that pushed the stock all the way up to the 430. And by then, people were, looking at the valuation and understanding that, it's up so much already. That was like about close to a high single-digit percentage upward swing, and then subsequently it sold off. And you can see that the sell-off was pretty drastic, and this is basically a combination of retail investors' emotion out of whack that subsequently sold off down all the way to the 310 level. And I think a lot of people actually bought at the top or somewhere around like the $400 level. So there are definitely a lot of bag holders at the moment. And ever since then, we've been kind of consolidated sideways, trading around like the $328 level, kind of bouncing up and down. On the RSI perspective, this is not really a true indicator, knowing the fact that this stock has been just traded for about less than a week so far. So right now, on a just a high level perspective, we're definitely oversold. And in terms of the MACD, we are crossing the line, so it's slowly building the momentum upwards, knowing the fact that we've just been kind of consolidated, trading sideways. And I believe that the bottom is pretty much forming right here at the $328 level, with more of a propensity for more of an upward swing in the near future based on just what we see on the technical chart at the moment. Now I want to talk about my rationale behind this investment opportunity, Coinbase, right? Based on some of my research and gathering my thoughts and just observing based on how investment managers are handling this investment opportunity and some of the media affectations that we've been kind of synthesizing so far. I basically collectively put together just like 4 bullet points that we need to look out for as a form of assessments on how should we think about this and what will be an optimal next step for us, right? So number 1, lack of maturity and high fluctuations of cryptocurrencies. So this is one of the key catalysts of the sell-off that we've been experiencing ever since last Wednesday of the IPO, right? The IPO was definitely a very hyped IPO. Knowing the fact that Coinbase has invested significantly, about 3x their marketing dollars in Q1 this year ahead of the IPO. So it's been just getting a lot of publicity, a lot of marketing pump into just media that serves as some sort of a positive media affectation to the stock. And also with respect to like just Bitcoin and Ethereum and some other cryptocurrencies that's been just like hyping exponentially, growing at like 3-4x in just the last couple months so far. Just look at the chart right here. You could see that Bitcoin has been just blowing up in infinitely so far, starting from just a couple months ago was like 30K, now it's like close to about like 60K, and months ago was only like at 15K. So you could see that was like basically a 4x of your money from there. Ethereum as well, very volatile, but still on the upswing, right? XRP, you could see that it's mooning like crazy, but now it's kind of selling off. Dogecoin, I don't even want to talk about. This is just insane momentum push right now, completely deviating from all business fundamentals. This is just purely based on emotions. So because of the fact that, mainly driven by emotions, and the emotions have been kind of out of whack so far. And on top of that, this is an IPO, right? And when companies go on IPO, sometimes many of these founders, insiders, or earlier investors, prefer to liquidate some of their shares that they've been holding, forever, right? And it's just a form of intrinsic reward for themselves, knowing the fact that they've been invested into the company for about 6-7 years, or sometimes even a decade of their life, working so hard in this startup, and now you see this baby into fruition, right? It just makes sense to reward yourself intrinsically, to take some personal gains, either buy a house, or maybe allocate some assets for for family, or whatever, right? So collectively speaking, there were, I believe, 7 insiders, in combinations of both executive management team on the C-suite, like the president and CEO, including Brian. And also, I believe, one of the fund manager that sold a collective $4 billion of shares of Coinbase at a collective numbers of shares of 10 million. On IPO day on the 14th specifically. And I was looking at the market beats right now. You could see that, right? Frederick Wilson, the director level, sold close to 5 million shares, about like $1.8 billion in total transaction value, right? Alicia, CFO, she sold close to 250,000 shares, close to 100 million. Brian Armstrong, including the CEO himself, he sold close to 750,000 shares, basically cashing out like $292 million of personal gains. Emil Choi, president, right? $100 million of cash out, right? And et cetera, and et cetera. And also with respect to this one major shareholders, Square Venture decided to sell, close to 3.8 million shares at a $1.5 billion in transaction valuation. So definitely a lot of people selling, right? But this is a very normal course of cadence, and I know that obviously these people have significantly more shares than this amount of shares that they have here. So this is more just an IPO play again, right? Which causes some sort of correlations to the sell-off that we've been experiencing so far, right? Because of the one major red candle, then other people get scared, and subsequently a lot of retail investors start selling, which causes this whole downfall right here, right? This big red candle, and then subsequently more people follow, right? So this was a quick pump and dump type of play on IPO, which was unfortunate, but it happens all the time, and that's why I tend to stay away from IPOs, because you just don't know how the insiders are reacting, and knowing the fact that they have such strong market power in the stock price, so I typically stay away, just because you don't know how people are thinking, and you cannot read people behind closed doors. So moving on to my third point right here, on with respect to some of the controversies that we've been gathering with respect to the valuation, with respect to the business fundamentals so far. So here are like the key points I want to just like bring up, so you guys are aware of some of the key fundamental risks that we need to be looking out for, right? So firstly, with respect to the size of this business as a whole, right? If we were to value this company at about $100 billion in valuation for market cap, contingent on comparable revenue streams and comparable business fundamentals, using New York Stock Exchange and the Nasdaq as comps, this would mean that Coinbase would be 2 times larger, or 1.5 times larger. If you look at like current valuation right now, trading about like $330 level, it will be like about 1.5 times or 2 times larger than the combined revenue of both New York Stock Exchange and Nasdaq, right? So just in the juxtaposition, thinking as an outsider perspective, that's a pretty sizable valuation assumptions to baked into Coinbase, thinking that that's what's going to happen in the future. But you're baking this into a present tense value right now. So something to understand, right? I think that's a little bit of a stretch at the moment, but who knows, right? Cryptocurrency didn't exist 10 years ago or 15 years ago, right? I think the whole economy was a very different economy back in the day. right? I don't think computer existed 20 years ago, or not with this amount of adoptions 20 years ago. So these type of things are revolutionary, and these type of things can happen, and it can be possible in the future, if we are trending in the right directions that they're projecting. Just something to think about, right? Moving on to the potential margin squeeze from competitions, right? So with respect to the ecosystem for cryptocurrency as a whole, although it is still in a relatively infancy stage at the moment, as this economy and this industry further expand going forward with more adoptions for cryptocurrencies going forward, more and more competition is going to come in and play, right? And right now, the direct revenue streams that Coinbase has right now at 97% is really comprised of the transaction percentage cut that it gets on every single exchange transactions, right? So, and in comparisons to Coinbase direct comps like Binance, like the ones that were founded by the Winklevoss brothers, Gemini, the transaction percentage cost that Coinbase offer is 46% higher than its direct competitors. Okay, so if there was some sort of cost percentage adjustments with respect to the regulations from the SEC, or if there was some sort of competitive pricing that's offered by its direct competitors, that could substantially hinder the top line revenue that Coinbase will be able to sustain going forward, knowing the fact that again, right, 97% of the revenue streams comes from there. And on top of that, as a double whammy, there's a high revenue concentration with respect to the Coinbase transaction holding. Okay, so 56% of the Coinbase transaction is coming directly from Bitcoin and the Ethereum transactions. Okay, as of Q1, that we just learned from the investor relations report. And with respect to this, like increasing margin squeeze that we'll potentially be getting on top of the high revenue concentrations, on top of the fact that just look at the chart again, look at just Bitcoin, right? How it fluctuates, and look at how Ethereum, how it fluctuates, fluctuating by 10, 20%. That could give, investors kind of a, gut wrenching feeling on not feeling fully confident into holding their dollars, their life savings into this as an asset that is sustainable, or sustainable in terms of a more of a stable type of investment opportunity. Because most investors are tend to be more passive, right? They want to just like let the money grow by itself without having to worry, or like keeping them up at night, like that type of way, right? So something to think about, right, in terms of the risk profile and appetites among investors, right? Last point, I think this is more of a opportunity for Coinbase as a whole, and I think this is one of the reasons why I'm really thinking about investing into Coinbase, knowing that fact has been consolidating, is that yes, this is a relatively new concept. In cryptocurrencies is a relatively new concept in terms of the financial system, right? And right now, Coinbase is just pretty much a transaction intermediary, exchanging dollars from here and there. And Bitcoin and Ethereum, they're not really being used for, merchants. They're not really used for buying stuff at the moment, right? We're not going out to like 7-Eleven or like going to the supermarket buying groceries with Bitcoin yet, right? We're not. I know there are some corporations that are offering, like Tesla, that's you could buy like a Model S with Bitcoin at the moment, but that's just a very minimal part of the whole ecosystem at the moment, right? But the Coinbase, why is Coinbase such a great business for you to think about, to bet on, is that their end goal is not what we see at the moment. Their end goal is to become the Google or the Amazon of cryptocurrencies going forward. They will basically provide an ecosystem to our world for all the transactional usage, with respect to paying your bills with Bitcoin, buying a car with Bitcoin, financing with Bitcoin, insurance with Bitcoin, blah blah blah, anything that you can think of or dream of. If Coinbase can become what is destined to become, or what they're proposing that they will become, I think the sky is really limitless for Coinbase. If they truly become the Google of cryptocurrencies right now, I think buying the stock at this price right now, even though it's such a high valuations, again, right? If you think about in just positions to just the combinations of both Nasdaq and New York Stock Exchange, I think they will outweigh that completely and be like the next Google in terms of market cap and even bigger than Google in the future, right? Just think of that potential there, right? How insane that could be, knowing the fact that this only occurred in the last 1 decade of our life, right? Again, right? Cryptocurrency did not exist a decade ago, right? And now to see this whole thing, evolving over time and where this will lead us in the next 10 years, who knows, right? Obviously, it's a high execution risk because there's going to be a lot of like media affectations, a lot of consumer pushback, obviously a lot of corporations and regulatory headwind that the company will need to face going forward. So having a strong executive team on being able to maneuver and then and eliminate these blockades and subsequently execute while sustaining profitability and growth in a marketing perspective and in terms of market adoption perspective is going to be critical. So on the fourth point right here, Kathy Wood Investments. So as of the IPO date on April 14th again, Kathy has been investing ever since as of today on Monday, April 19th. And so far, she basically dumped close to $450 million into Coinbase at about 1.3 million shares so far. So just look at the Lucid page that we have here. You could see that ever since April 14th, she's been buying heavily. On IPO day, she bought 168 in the ARK fund, close to 50 million in the ARKW fund, close to 30 million in the ARKF fund, and so far, she's been kind of loading up ever since, buying every single day. And in addition to buying it every single day, she's been selling, her one of her largest holding, Tesla, for the last couple of days. Just to take a look at Tesla real quick, which is her largest holding. She sold about $150 million in the RK fund, 500,000, and then close to 90 millions of her strongest, bull thesis, Tesla, to buy Coinbase. She's really putting, her money where her mouth is, right? She's foreseeing revolution in the cryptocurrency exchange space. She's been basically publishing thesis and publications, and I think she even said at one point during a CNBC meeting that she foresees like Bitcoin to be hitting 400K sometimes in 2022 or something crazy like that, 150K by summertime this year, right? Something outrageous like that. Yeah, the stock has been kind of selling off ever since it had to hit the apex of 420. Now it's just kind of selling off to the $327 to $328 level at the moment. So it's just been kind of consolidated sideways. And as I mentioned in my previous video on the Coinbase IPO rationale, I believe that Kathy, she's aware that she probably bought the company at a premium on IPO day, which typically, the emotions high with respect to the euphoric pump is high. The sell-off was very logical, right? With respect to the valuation, or despite, understanding the premium valuation that she has enforced on herself by buying a pretty big substantial amount on day one, is a form of media affectation. Again, right? She has to make a point to the public that she's supportive of this business, that she is a long-term investor. She believes in this cryptocurrencies exchange and Coinbase as a core player in this space going forward. And that's why she invested such a substantial amount. And ever since then, it dipped and sold off to, to this $328 level, and she's been basically buying every single day. It's a form of dollar cost averaging, right? She's going to slowly build up this position as she's, as a rudimentary support for her thesis, which she has been propelling and pushing for, I don't know, couple of years now, So with respect to like investors, so with respect to is it a good evaluation to buy in the stock, on IPO day? I would say Kathy, she's an investor. She's not a wizard. She's not a god that can predict the future. I wouldn't just necessarily follow her every steps and every trade just for the sake of following her trades because she's been successful this past year, right? Understand that she has a large amount of assets that she's managing, and you could say that $435 million is a lot of money, but it's still a relatively small chunk of dollars, only about like 1% of her asset holding at the moment, right? She's managing about 40 billion, which is relatively speaking, is still a relatively small amount to her fund. So that's just something to think about in terms of thinking more of a non-biased perspective. All right, so moving on to tip ranks, just to look at how the Wall Street is shaking out the consensus so far. With respect to the four analyst ratings so far, four of them all say buy. And with respect to the valuations that they foresee in the next 12 months, the highest is on the level of 650. Average is going to be $336, which is going to give you close to 61% of an upside going forward. And on the low side, it's going to be close to about like the $400 level again, close to the IPO price point of the 380. So with respect to my price target, knowing the fact that we've been kind of consolidated sideways right now, and I don't foresee us to have, further negative affectations with respect to also, the fluctuations that we've been seeing with respect to the cryptocurrencies market so far. I think most of the assumptions with respect to volatility of the stock is pretty much baked in right now, and we're forming this consolidation at the bottom of like about the $328 level. So as of market opens today, I plan on buying close to 100K of Coinbase, as my first positioning, and I will slowly build that up into a larger position as it goes on. The next resistance level that we have kind of saw here when it kind of oversold on day one on Wednesday, April 14th, is that we hit that $317 level, right? And if we get there, that's another attractive price point, knowing the fact that a lot of bulls going to come in. And if we go below that, I think the next resistance level is going to be somewhere around like the 300, but I foresee us to be breaching that to like the 295 levels. Just more of a psychological play because people can sell and then subsequently go below the $300 mental level. And then, as people are more aware of the 300 dip level, more bulls will come in and buy up and scoop up. So there's a possibility that we could go down to the 295 levels. Which I believe before the IPO they were discussing somewhere around like the 280 or the 275 level. So 295 wouldn't be surprising if we saw this level. And in a more relatively speaking perspective, the 340 here. So this is the pre-IPO market price that that got leaked out, I think 6 months ago, 7 months ago. So relatively speaking, it's still trading, right now lower than the pre-IPO price, which some of the, later stage investors pre-IPO have bought in, which gives you like a 4% discount, in comparison to current price, right? Depending on how you want to buy in, right? And my year-end target, I'm gonna be just a little bit conservative here, contingent on Bitcoin and Ethereum and all those like major cryptocurrencies asset class, to further rally up from here. Bitcoin hitting close to 100K by the end of the year. Or my other predictions, I said somewhere around like 95,000. Or Ethereum hitting close to like the $4,000 level. And further adoptions and further market acceptance, I think 550 wouldn't be surprising to me. And this will give you a 68% upside, if you buy now, or more of a close to a 1.8 times your money as well. Thank you so much for joining me today on listening to my rationale and my thesis around why I decided to invest 100K into Coinbase as a first-time position into the business. And please, again, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and feel free to comment or reach out to me personally directly as well if you have any questions about specific stock that you want me to take a look at or any specific questions that you want me to dive into more. Thank you so much again, and stay tuned for the next video.